Christine Niles here. A quick update to let you know YouTube has demonetized me. Out of the blue, a couple weeks ago, I got a notice that my channel was no longer eligible for monetization. Why? Well, it is somewhat unclear. But before we get into the details of that, a very quick update on my progress after fracturing my pelvis, September 12th. It's nearly 6 weeks now, almost 6 weeks. And while I'm doing 1,000 times better now than I was then, I am still on crutches, and I do expect to remain on crutches for probably at least another week or so. And after that, I might graduate to just a cane, just because it's still hard to place pressure on my left leg. But I am indeed healing. I can feel it. Each night that passes, there's less and less pain. I'm so grateful. It's just sort of like the long slog. You know, it just takes a long time for bone to heal. So I just wanted to sincerely thank each of you who've asked about me, and especially those who've prayed for me, because your prayers, no doubt, have gone a long way towards helping me to heal and recover. And I do believe that God answers prayers, and so your prayers are being heard by God. So thank you so much, and I just cannot wait to be rid of these crutches. And I tell you right now, I will never be so grateful to be able just to walk again as the day when I can finally lose my crutches. All right, so back to YouTube demonetizing me. So YouTube claims that I feature, quote, reused content. And they gave a few examples, but they didn't give any specifics about any particular videos that violated that content. And so I am guessing that they might be referring to Catholic News Roundup, perhaps, because I play clips and sound bites, interspersed, of course, with reporting and commentary. And that's perfectly normal. That's what every single major media outfit does with their newscasts. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, all of them. Okay, it's what we did with headlines when I was at Church Militant for almost 10 years. Anyone who studied copyright law knows that fair use doctrine allows you to use others' clips and sound bites as long as they're used in conjunction with reporting or commentary, political commentary, social commentary, what have you. There are other rules as well. For instance, how much of the clip you use and things like that. But I'm always very careful to try to follow the guidelines of fair use in any of my newscasts. And that's what I do with Catholic News Roundup, exactly what numerous other media outfits far larger than Stella Maris Media do. So why did YouTube take a sudden interest in me and send me this note, just suddenly demonetizing me? It's unclear. Perhaps one of my enemies reported me to YouTube. Perhaps one of my videos caught their eye. Perhaps it's their algorithm. I don't know. What we do know is that YouTube seems to selectively enforce its policies. And often that enforcement seems to go just one way, against the right, against conservatives, against faith-based conservatives who espouse views contrary to YouTube's woke overlords. So part of YouTube demonetizing me is that you are no longer able to give me super thanks. Now, super thanks is a feature in the comment section where you can just click on thanks, and you're actually able to give money through YouTube. And so some of you have been extremely generous in giving money to me through the super thanks, and now that avenue is cut off because YouTube has demonetized me. But the good news is you can go to my website, stellamaris.media, and you can give there. It's actually better to give at my website because did you know that every time you give through YouTube super thanks, YouTube takes 30% of your donation, 30% of your donation, okay? So, for example, if you decided, let's say, to give $100, YouTube would take $30, and then $70 would go to me, which is, YouTube just takes a huge portion. But if you go to my website, the payment processing system that I use, and everybody has to use a payment processing system when you're processing payments online, has, as far as I know, the lowest fees that I could find, which are about 3%. So if you decide, for instance, to give $100, they only take about $3, and I have the rest, which is $97. So I would much rather have, them take $3 than YouTube take $30. So in a way, if you have been giving through YouTube, just be aware they're taking 30% of your donation. So it's really better if you just go to stellamaris.media and give through there, because the vast majority of your money will actually be going to stellamaris.media rather than to some other company. Now, while I do plan on appealing, I don't have much hope that YouTube's going to change its decision. So I have to accept that for now, this is just an income stream that is cut off from me. Not that it was bringing me a tremendous amount each month, but it was helping. It was helping. Every little bit helps towards paying the bills. And I do want to take some time to thank all of you who've been supporting me either financially or through your prayers. And I really am truly so grateful because I could not continue doing what I do here at Stella Maris Media without you and your support. For those who've been watching for a while, or for those of you who've just discovered us, I hope that you might also consider supporting me. And those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I left Church Militant in November of 2023 after having worked there for almost 10 years, after pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into that place, that apostolate for nearly a decade because I believed so strongly in its mission. And sadly, the apostolate sort of self-imploded owing to a scandal caused by my former boss. And I already speak about it in a prior video released last November. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can go find that video. There's no point in rehashing all of that now. But after leaving Church Militant, which was an incredibly difficult decision, one of the hardest in my life and over which I agonized and prayed for months because my decision to leave actually had nothing to do with the breach of morality clause committed by my former boss, had to do with a number of other internal things that had been happening in the months prior to my leaving that really deeply troubled me and disturbed me. Again, I go into some of that in that other video. And so, of course, I was quite frankly terrified to leave because that was sort of my security blanket. That was sort of what I had known for 10 years. And plus, I have 4 children. And those who know my situation know I'm a single mom of 4 children living on a single income. And so they rely on me completely to support them. So I didn't know how I was going to support my family if I left. And so I prayed intensely. I sought God's guidance intensely, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it. A time of intense self-searching and prayer, and above all, of surrender. That's when I discovered the Surrender Novena, and that was what gave me the courage to finally leave, because I knew that I had to leave. I just knew that I had to leave, and that gave me the courage to do so. I actually did an episode, the very first episode of Forward Boldly here at Stella Maris Media on the topic of surrender. And I want to play just a short little clip of that now. So surrender. Been learning a lot about surrender lately. When I say surrender, I don't mean capitulation. I don't mean giving up. I mean surrendering everything completely over to God. Probably the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life. Let go and let God. Most of us go through life hanging on. We're under the illusion that we're in control. We are in control over our own actions, our thoughts, our words and deeds. We have free will. We don't have control over the things that happen to us. A sickness, terrible accident, natural disasters. If we run around thinking that we have control, we end up miserable. The most miserable people in the world are the ones who are trying to control everything around them because they lack trust in God. Trust can be very difficult, especially those who have been through upheaval. But trust is so necessary, and it's the key to peace and joy, which is what God desires for us. He doesn't desire us to go around full of anxiety, worried. He desires us to live lives of peace and joy, but that requires fully surrendering to Him in all things. Looking back, that was a terrifying time for me, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that God allowed me to go through that, and I'm also so grateful that I chose faith. In some cases, almost blind faith, trusting that if I just jumped, God was going to catch me, that He was going to give me a soft landing, that He was going to take care not just of me, but also of my children. And so I made the choice to strike out on my own. Scary time. I'd never struck out on my own before. And I was terrified of doing so. Launching my own little media enterprise. You know, I had all sorts of doubts running through my head at the time. I thought, okay, is this going to bomb? Is this going to flop? Because I had this support system behind me when I was working at my previous media organization, but now this would be just me completely, entirely, just me on my own. My writing, my producing, my editing, my hosting, my speaking, all of it, it would just be me. And what if I fail? What if people hate it? What if I'm unable to get sufficient subscriptions to support my family. I mean, all of these thoughts were going through my head. And I just decided to step out in faith and just trust God and just do the best that I could do. Take everything that I had learned from my time working in media and just apply it to this new little media enterprise. And I've got to tell you, I am so grateful that I did, because thus was born Stella Maris Media. It was born of this time of tumult and confusion and pain and doubt and fear, but also above all of surrender. I especially turned to Our Lady under the title Star of the Sea, Stella Maris. That's Latin for Star of the Sea. And she is, of course, the patron saint of Stella Maris Media. I entrusted this entire endeavor to her care. And I turned to her every day, seeking her guidance and help and blessing. In fact, in my bedroom, just over my bed, is a framed image of Stella Maris, Our Lady Star of the Sea. Again, I entrust this endeavor entirely to her, and I turn to her every single day, seeking her blessing and her help in all that we do here in this little media enterprise. I mentioned the Surrender Novena, which gave me the courage to step out in faith. And if you have never heard of it, you must get to know it. It is incredible. I carry the novena around in my purse, and I often pray some of those prayers at Mass just to remind me to stop being anxious, stop worrying about the future, and entrust all of it to God. Because let's be honest, we have to continually remind ourselves of that, don't we? I mean, we continually have to remind ourselves to trust God. And this is an incredible novena because it's the words of our Lord himself to a priest. And so when you're praying this novena, you're actually praying the words of our Lord himself spoken to this very holy priest. And it's profoundly touching. And it will change your life. So I am going to provide a link to the Surrender Novena in the description beneath the video. And please, if you have any concerns about anything at all, and we all do, then please turn to that novena, pray it, because it will change your life. So, like I said, when I stepped out in faith, God blessed my surrender to him. And Our Lady Star of the Sea, she has indeed guided me. She's helped me. She has blessed me beyond anything I expected. Our little channel, for instance, we started out with a mere 500 or so followers. Okay, today, just months later, it's more than 31,000 and it's growing. I mean, that might not be a very big number with some of the really, really big YouTube channels that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. But, I'm happy. I'm happy. I hope to continue to grow it according to God's will. And of course, I can't do it without your help. So if you find my videos at all helpful, if they've encouraged you, if they've helped your soul or provide enlightenment in some way of encouragement or hope, if you think they might help others, then please feel free to share this content with family and friends or post it on your social media. The motto of Stella Maris Media is bringing hope to a world in need. And it's crucial for me in the midst of all the cruelty, darkness, and corruption in this world, some of which I've exposed and reported on as an investigative journalist, that we be reminded of the points of light, the goodness, the beauty of God, manifested in so many different ways in our world. And truly, there is so much beauty, there is so much hope, there's so much goodness, and that really is just God's goodness shining through the world in various ways and through people, through good people who live his will and who love him. That's what I try to do with Stella Maris Media in the content that I produce. And even with Catholic News Roundup, while I do have to report on some of the alarming things taking place around the globe, because it is good for Catholics to be aware of these things, so that at least at a minimum you can pray for them, you can pray about them. I do always try to include at least one positive story that will renew your hope in God's goodness, that he's still very much working in the world and helping his people. Now, I want to take a few minutes to read some comments from viewers. These are actually comments taken from my videos, just a handful because there are just so many, hundreds and hundreds. But I do know that the work that we put out has a real world impact on people. This is from Crucita Montoya. God put this podcast here on purpose. He wanted me to see it. God bless you and thank you for it. This is Jim Jessup. Christine, thank you for your beautiful apostolate. You are a great blessing for our times. God bless you and your work. Magdalena Isaiah says, "This was just beautiful and very inspiring." From Ines Camara, "Thank you for sharing this with us. I hope the whole world will listen to this." Norm Babbitt, "I have never heard such a deep testimony of God and Jesus Christ ever in my life before. I thank you both, Christy Niles and Ed Joza, for this richness of spirit and wisdom. My wife and I benefited from listening all the way through this interview and testimony. God bless you both." That, of course, is referring to the interview that I did with Ed Joza. If you have not watched it, it's actually the longest interview I've ever done, but really it was worth it. And a lot of people wrote in saying, I thought that this would be too long for me to listen to, but I was just gripped. I was gripped by his testimony, and I just listened to the whole thing through. And it was incredible. Some people have listened to it several times because of this man's incredible experiences after he had this horrendous car crash. I'm not going to say anything more about it, but the title of the episode is called A Moment in Eternity, and you don't want to miss that. Now, I'm going to share with you a recent tweet I posted on social media. It was in response to someone named Audra Gold, who was responding to James O'Keefe's documentary on the migrant crisis called A Line in the Sand. Now, I haven't watched it yet, but I hear it's excellent. It aired on the Tucker Carlson Network, and you have to pay $9, I believe, to view it. Now, this lady tweeted, "If this is as important as you say it is, why paywall it? That will significantly lower the impact it can have. In this case, I would say the impact is more important than the revenue opportunity." This was my response. As someone who's been involved in professional media for more than a decade, it's always so frustrating when people insist on free content, having no clue of the enormous cost behind production of documentaries, in equipment, man hours, crew, wages, travel, food, lodgings, producing, editing, marketing, etc. I myself provide content at StellaMars.media for free, and I hope to continue to do so, but I couldn't do it without donations from the rank and file. Everything costs money, and the better the production, the more it costs. All the content is free, and I hope that it stays that way. I don't put anything behind a paywall, but that doesn't mean that the service I provide doesn't cost me. So, for instance, when I was busy putting together my studio in my home, I did everything I could to save money because I'm on a budget. Someone in my situation, mother of multiple children, I'm on a budget. So instead of buying expensive props, which some people do, I used items that I already had in my own home. Or I went to the local thrift store and I looked for unique items there at low cost. I'm not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on the snazziest items or the latest technological gadgets. I do not have anywhere near the amount of money that Church Milton had to spend literally tens of thousands of dollars on sets and on the evening news desk and on teleprompters and cameras and lav mics and everything that they spent their money on. I don't have anywhere near. I have a fraction of that. So for instance, for the monitor that I use in the background, it's a used TV monitor I already had in my home. The desk that I used for Forward Boldly in my previous home studio was an old desk that I already had. Same with my chair. The flooring was a couple of large white rugs I bought at a local thrift shop. My curtains that I'd already had in storage for years. I did everything I could to save as much money as I could. Of course, there were things that I needed to buy. For instance, I did have to buy a decent camera so that I could do some professional video production, because you can't have a low quality camera that gives out grainy video, because then nobody's going to want to watch your video because of the quality, and then your message doesn't get out. So I did have to spend some money on a decent camera, high caliber cameras with high frame rates, excellent coloring capabilities, all of that stuff. Now, did I go out and buy the most expensive cameras I could buy? Of course not. I actually went to eBay, where you can buy used versions of the type that I wanted. In this case, there were Blackmagic Cinema cameras, absolutely excellent cameras, but I was actually able to find a couple for half the cost. They were still costly, okay, but they were half the cost. Same goes for high quality microphones. That's absolutely crucial. Anybody who's worked in media knows that your audio is crucial. You just don't want to listen to somebody with really tinny audio, or just sounding like they're in an echo chamber in a tunnel, because some people don't use the right audio equipment and it just sort of grates on the ears. And again, you don't want to listen to that. So you want to have the right audio equipment. But, I didn't go out and spend thousands of dollars, even hundreds of dollars. But I did buy a decent quality camera on a budget. Lighting too. Lighting is absolutely essential in good video production. I never understood how crucial good lighting is in video production until I actually worked in media. You have no idea how complex and how crucial good lighting is. It's actually really interesting if you look into it. And then of course you've got all the cables, wires, extensions, hardware, software, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the little things that go into putting together a good media studio. Then of course you've got the good editing laptop that can handle large amounts of memory, massive files without lagging or freezing up. Anyone who's done serious video editing, as I do, using, for instance, Adobe Premiere Pro or some other comparable program, you know that a good editing laptop is absolutely essential. And they cost a lot more than the average laptop, but you have to use that. You have to use that for the professional video editing software because the files are just way too large. There's way too much memory that you have to use. Because trust me, I tried using at the beginning just a regular average laptop, and it was absolutely impossible. It was impossible to work on it because it kept freezing every 5 minutes. I couldn't get any work done, and then the quality of the video coming out, the export, it always messed up. All right, so why am I going over all this? You're probably like, Christine, this is boring. This is boring. Why are you talking about your equipment and expenses? Just put out a podcast and talk about the faith. Well, I'm talking about it for a couple reasons. First, to reassure you that I am extremely thrifty in all of my purchases. I'm not extravagant. So anytime you give to Stella Maris Media, you can be assured that I am never wasting your money, that I'm never throwing it away on the snazziest equipment or the latest high-tech gadgets or anything like that. I buy what I need to do my job well, and I try to do so as well as possible on a budget. Second, it's also to make you aware of the costs involved in running a media studio. So in addition to the man hours, the equipment, producing, editing, everything else, obviously we've also got bills to pay. We've got electricity bills to keep the lights on, the internet bill to ensure we get our programming out to the public, the paid subscriptions in order to continue using editing software, etc., etc. And these are all ongoing costs. The bills have to be paid every month or once a year. So there are a few ways, if you're able to, that you can support our work here at Stella Maris Media. Of course, the primary way, the way most people support us, is simply giving donations through our website. Just go to stellamaris.media, click on the Support Our Work button, and it takes you to the giving page where you can make the choice of a one-time gift or a recurring donation. There are different levels of monthly giving, as low as $15 a month or even higher, depending on what you can give. And believe me when I say every little bit helps and is so deeply appreciated. So thank you. Something you may not know is that we also accept stock donations. And there are many advantages to giving stock donations. For one, you avoid the capital gains tax, which is applied to any income you make from your stocks. If you donate stocks instead of selling them, you aren't taxed on that donation. And it's also very easy to do. If you have stocks and you'd like to donate to us, please just write me at stellamaris@stellamaris.media. That's stellamaris@stellamaris.media. And I'll give you all the information that you need. Again, it's a very easy, quick process to do. Now, another way to support us is through sponsorships. So if you run a business and you would like it featured on Stella Maris Media, there are different sponsorship packages that we offer through doing ad reads. So you've heard of one of our sponsors I mention all the time, realestateforlife.org. It's a very pro-life way of either buying or selling a home. And fortunately, apparently they've had a lot of success in getting new Catholic business simply because I've mentioned them on my episodes. And of course, every time that you go there and you decide to either buy or sell a home through Real Estate for Life, I benefit because the realtor gives a cut of their commission to Stella Maris Media. And that is a tremendous help to us. So just don't forget, when you go to Real Estate for Life and they say, where did you hear about us? Just put in my name and we will end up getting a pretty decent donation from that. Also, as another example, I did a single ad read for a different Catholic company on just one of my episodes. And within just a couple months, that company nabbed something like $10,000 worth of new business. And all because customers heard about it on my podcast, Forward Boldly. So if you have a business and you want to become a sponsor, again, just contact us and we can give you all the information on that. Now, for those of you who are not able to support us financially, you can always support me in prayer. Prayer is the divine currency which draws down God's graces and favors, and I do covet your prayers. I do believe in the power of prayer. So I'm going to play a short video for you as a reminder of the power of a single prayer. I think he was jogging through his neighborhood and he saw an ambulance outside his neighbor's house. He was in the habit of praying a Hail Mary for anyone in need. He prays it, doesn't think any more of it. Some days later, he is jogging by that house again. The woman sees him. She stops him. She says, "Thank you for saving my life." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I believe she had a heart attack. She said during that time, she felt like she was dying. She saw a vision of our Lord, and our Lord said to her, "It's okay. You're going to be okay because this man prayed for you." And she had the image of that man. So when she saw him in person, she thanked him, and he never forgot that. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, the power of just one Hail Mary. But that one Hail Mary, it saved her life. So think about the power of prayer, how much you can do. How much you can do throughout a single day, sprinkling that day with prayers. Little prayers here and there, just a Hail Mary here and there. You're walking through the grocery store, and all the people, all the souls in there who don't know our Lord, offer a Hail Mary for them. Or you know what? Divine Mercy Chaplet. That's also extremely powerful. So that short video right there has gotten a lot of traction, a lot. And I try to do that as well as part of my content. I put out these little reels, these shorts, and some of them have gotten tremendous traction. For instance, I did one on the Carmelite martyrs, and that more than 1 million views, And that wasn't even the first time I'd posted it. I'd posted it previously. That one got like 2.7 million views. So I do try to put out these little tidbits to encourage people in the faith and to remind them of these important things that help us along the way, like the power of prayer. The power of one Hail Mary. It's so easy for us to take for granted because we just say it all the time and we don't think about it. And we don't realize that sometimes those little prayers, even the offhand ones that we're not even thinking about, can literally save a person's life, can save a person's soul. So please never think your prayers are wasted. God hears all, especially those who pray with sincere hearts and who try to follow God's will in their own lives. Your prayers are never wasted. So once again, thank you to all of you who've supported me either financially or through prayer. I truly appreciate you. I'm so thankful for you. You are the reason that I am able to keep doing the work I'm doing. You're the reason that Stella Mars Media is able to keep going. Thank you again to all of you who've decided, maybe after watching this episode, to start supporting my work financially so that I can continue to produce top quality content and keep bringing hope to a world in need. God bless you. Our Lady, Star of the Sea, pray for us.